You are watching Q2Cast TV.
It just takes some time, little girl, you're in the middle of the ride, and everything will be just fine, everything is gonna be alright. It just takes some time, little girl, you're in the middle of the ride, everything will be just fine, everything will be alright.
We say Independence Day. Today we celebrate the men who reclaimed a beautiful slice of this earth and claimed it for God, for the values of freedom and rugged independence. Our history is messy. Our history is violent. Fuck yeah, it is. And that's why we love it. We aren't cowards. We don't turn our backs on the painful memories because they make us who we are. Be proud of our country, damn it. America is the birthplace of every great invention of the last 250 years. Like literally everything. Airplanes, spaceships, internet, telephones. As a country, we are batting 1,000. Not only is it a miracle that this radical experiment in self-governance even survived past 1776, but we are the champions of the world. Be proud of that. Be proud of your history. Millions of your ancestors fought and died to preserve it. Kami Mamdani's ancestors never bled for this country. He has no history here, so he has no attachment to our home. He has no place to rewrite our history and lecture us about what our country stands for. So celebrate today. Show some American pride. Honor your history. Raise your flag. Raise a finger and say, fuck you, communists. This is our home, and you can't have it. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day. God bless America.
Madman Cafe, live on Q2Cast TV.
His mountain fortress. It's the show that's 100 organic, 40 caffeinated, and at least 50 feet away from all historical monuments. He's the man who once successfully argued with a GPS until it started crying. He's faster than a speeding snail and capable of overthinking a greeting card at a single bound. Hide your snacks and lock your doors. Here's the madman.
Well, oh, that cut off early. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Madman Cafe, live high atop my mountain fortress here in NYC on Staten Island. So much that is going on right now, this very minute. But before we start, don't forget, share, like, and hey, most of all, hit that subscribe button. It's very important, especially what we're about to discuss today is one of the most important topics that we're tackling here. It is the warning that I've been telling you for well over a year now. We'll be tackling that. But before also we get into it and bring in our panelists, just a reminder, don't forget, shopcuticast.com. Gear up, stand out, join the movement. We have an extra 10% off going on right now. Stay mad is the promo code. It will be on throughout the summer. And yes, on that, you can buy these t-shirts as well. They do ship overseas on there. So do check it out. That's shopcuticast.com. Also, hey, listen, a lot of things are going on, and we're going to bring in the panelists immediately. First thing, let me bring in Snob is going to be a little late as usual, but he'll be here soon on there. Let me bring in Outpost Nerd.
What's up?
And to help us with this topic today, from across the pond, his returning back to the cafe is our good friend Dean.
Why, hello there.
A lot going on, but before we get into the main topics, a couple of major things that we just want to get off our chest here. Excuse me. First of all, we are still monitoring news out of New York. There is a building about to collapse. It might be collapsing on 42nd Street. It is shut down the entire area, considering that the World Cup is going on right now in New York. This is I know this building very well because my family members have worked in this area. Channel 11 News had to evacuate their building diagonally across from it. This is a 30-story building being converted into apartments and going to becoming a 10 more stories higher. So basically, there's some major trouble going on right now. We're going to monitor that situation. Also, some sad news. First of all, Kang Hee-sung, who basically is she's a voice actress from Japan on there, most famously doing a lot of great stuff. Sailor Moon, also the mother of Shin-chan. If you're familiar with that series, great series. She's passed away herself. We've been getting a lot of voice actresses, actors, professionals from Japan have been passing away lately. Also, singer Lauren Bennett from the LMFAO band Park Rock Anthem singer has passed away also at 37. And finally, this one is it was a great actress back in the day, very famous on there. Woody Allen's ex-wife, Louise Lasser, star of Mary Hartman. Mary Hartman, if you're not familiar with Mary Hartman, one of the great late night soap operas that tackled a lot of issues back in the day. Also, since she was married to Woody Allen, she's been in many of his films, Take the Money and Run, and a lot of other films that on there. And she made appearances on everything from Mary Tyler Moore straight across in that era onto there. Moving on to more happier news. Obviously, if you haven't realized today, this week, Mushko Tensei has hit streaming the first 2 episodes on there. So has oops, wrong one there. Skeleton Knight season 2 has also has gone in there as well. Down also below, we have Ghost in the Shell episode 1. Saw it this morning. Fantastic, a must see to the point. On top of that, Akira coming back to theaters in IMAX for the first time in IMAX, coming this fall. To that point, another big issue. High Anime, the guys behind it have been arrested in Vietnam. The pirated anime site has been shut down. For those of you who've been trying to get back on again, looks like they've been arrested. Seems like the U.S. government, Homeland Security, was involved in this as of late. So that's
they have better things to do.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Jesus.
In physical media news, real quickly, they're releasing a Blu-ray version of the 3 Thing movies, the John Carpenter's, the original classic 1950s, and the pseudo sequel, prequel, whatever you want to call it, to that point. And they'll be released in a collection set. I'm surprised it wasn't in 4K. I'm really surprised that they did not do that in 4K. And that's all our top on there. First thing I want to bring up on here, also, let me bring this up. We got a $2 super chat. Well, $2 UK. I don't know what is that in American dollars on there from Lost Lore Scholar. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. I do look pretty. Thank you.
Indeed, very pretty on there. Also, we want to welcome aboard on here. Dave is in the chat. Vicky's in the chat. Cam's in the chat. We also have Lowe's Ease 2. You're new. Welcome on there. Of course, Dean's on there too as well. On there, Vicky. Thank you for those who have shown up for this important topic. Now, obviously, you read the highlight of it. There's some things going on in the United Kingdom right now. And let me start off with this video. This is out of I think it's are they called GB News? Is that
GB News? GB News? They broadcast in the UK.
Yeah, this is GB News. He's going to break it down just a bit real quickly onto this. It's about 3 minutes. It's not going to take too long. So we're going to click on this.
Do not skip this. The government is preparing to force you to consume BBC and establishment media content to the top of your social media feeds by law. Yes, you could be force-fed what I would call government propaganda and state-controlled media by default, and they're trying to do it by controlling and forcing social media companies to manipulate their algorithms. This is Orwellian nightmare fuel in real-life Britain.
Secure from the pests, obeying contradictory thoughts. Unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause.
Well, that's Apple's 1984 themed Macintosh commercial there, giving us what I think is an insight into what life in Britain will or can be like. The government want to counter so-called misinformation by trusted news from the BBC and perhaps other state-owned media like Channel 4. They want to give them undue prominence on social media or those that peddle their narrative. Just a reminder that the BBC itself has spread fake news and misinformation on countless occasions. It has a track record, even tracing back to 1984, when the BBC edited miners' strike footage out of sequence to falsely show protesters attacking police first. It acknowledged 7 years later that its mistake was made, and they said was made in the haste of putting the news together. That was their excuse, rather than a deliberate attempt to mislead. Well, in 2023, the BBC incorrectly reported the reason for Nigel Farage's bank account closure. They later amended and apologised, of course. Then there's the famous Trump panorama edit. The Beeb spliced clips from his January the 6th speech to falsely imply he directly called for violence in the Capitol. BBC apologised, they pulled the programme, then their Director General had to resign, and Trump is now suing them for billions. And what about the 2025 Gaza documentary? It was called Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone. That was narrated by the son of a Hamas official without any disclosure. It was, of course, ruled materially misleading. The BBC pulled it and ordered an on-air statement. There are hundreds of examples of this. I can't list them all here tonight. In fact, the BBC's own BBC Verify, its unit designed to combat misinformation, has been caught peddling misinformation itself. It's mental. This new government's proposal is a pure act of tyranny. It is designed to control you, your family, your friends on an industrial scale. Basically, what they want is for you to be sheep. This is not the act of a confident democracy. It is the action of the political liberal elite class that is losing control of their biased narratives. And
Yep, that's a little bit of what's going on there. Hi, Keely. You're just at time at the beginning of it, so we're going to go over it in a minute here. In fact, let's let Dean, because Dean is in the United Kingdom. Let's let him go over what is exactly going on. How is it going to affect not only the United Kingdom, but those around the world, including the United States, especially content creators and all that. So, Dean, let's take it away from there for a minute.
Okay, so the UK government's put forward a green paper, and in the green paper, they're trying to combat a couple of things. The first thing they talk about is that fewer people, especially the young, are consuming media by watching traditional TV. They're using the internet to get their news and stuff like that. They also talk about more people getting news and entertainment from sites like YouTube, TikTok, Netflix, any of the other streaming services. On top of this, the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, and Channel 5, so these are the main channels we have in the UK, they're getting less money than they used to. Less people watching them, they can't charge as much for advertising, and there's a lot more people now beginning to give up the BBC license. You know, they'll move out of their family's home, move into a flat. The BBC comes calling saying you've got to have a license fee to watch TV, and they go, we don't watch TV. We watch YouTube, we watch Netflix, we watch all these other things. We don't consume BBC, and we don't use iPlayer. So you end up with far less people watching terrestrial TV. Their advertising's going down. The license fee is going down. UK production is becoming more expensive. So you're getting this whole position where it's more expensive to create programming, and these big corporate companies and the BBC are putting pressure on the UK government to try and make changes. On top of this, the UK government considers global streaming companies as becoming more powerful, and they often keep ownership of the programs they commission. Therefore, those programs aren't available to everyone. And within the Green Paper, they talk about sporting events. You know, what a great way to bring lots of people on board. We're trying to get sporting events in front of you. We're trying to make sure your sporting events remain free and can always be accessed. And, you know, talk about bread and circuses. And the final one, and I think this one is probably one of the most important things, is the government is concerned that misinformation online is making it harder for people to find out what it considers reliable news. So these are the reasons why the BBC has, the UK government has proposed this Green Paper. They have labelled trusted news as broadcasters like the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, STV, and S4C, all of which have been caught sorry about that. All of which have been caught peddling a fake narrative, and when called out on it, it gets brushed under the carpet, and they say lessons will be learnt and quickly move on. They also, this is long term now, the UK government wants to change the way TV is delivered. So we had the analog signal phased out. We went to digital signal for our TVs, and now they want to phase out the digital signal. So soon, the only way you can access access TV will be through the internet. And you then fit this in with things like the One ID, the digital ID, and all of a sudden pieces begin to fall in place. Because if you can only watch TV via the internet, and you need an ID to access the internet, the government knows what you're watching, when you're watching it, how you're watching it, and can control what you watch. So the Green Paper says they're supporting UK production companies. They're trying to make it easier for these companies to survive in the new era. And they have put a consultation together. The consultation in one sentence is, how can we keep UK television, news, media, financially sustainable and relevant in a world dominated by streaming services, social media, and online platforms? So, this is not unusual for the UK government, because there's a great film. In the States, it's called Pirate Radio. Over here, it was called The Boat That Rocked. And it's a fantastic film, kind of a little bit factual, but, you know, there was a lot of dramatization within the film, as there always is. However, it was very factual in that back in the 1960s, the pirate radio sprung up within the UK. So these were radios that were broadcasting. People loved it. Millions were listening to them. They moved offshore to escape scrutiny by the UK government. And the UK government went on this big campaign to be able to control them and to shut them down. And the reasons they gave: unlicensed use of the radio spectrum, maritime safety, because they were boats that were offshore, loss of advertising revenue to unregulated broadcasters, and we're now beginning to see the similarities, and maintaining control over broadcasting. We then go ahead to the 90s. Once the government's got control of these broadcasters, we go ahead to the 90s. YouTube is born. And what's YouTube's tagline at that point? Broadcast yourself. So I think this is inevitable. It is typical of the UK government to go down this route. They can't bear you having any freedom to consume the media you want. And as we have, I think, in each of our countries, there's been this constant battle of the government saying, you must only consume trusted information. You must only consume the truth as we put it forward. You can't consume fake information, false information, misleading information, and we will try and control what you consume. However, we know our governments have had a history, and I mean a long history, of cover-ups. And I'm reminded that there are two I'm reminded of as a kind of warning that Governments cannot have this level of control. The first one is where between 1949 and 1976, approximately 185,000 babies in England and Wales were taken away from their mothers and put into foster care. These were single mothers who were forced, coerced to give up their babies when they were born and to give them over. And the people complicit in this were local authorities, adoption agencies, church, medical professionals, and the whole wider society in general. Anybody who tried to complain was told to not complain, was told to keep silent. And it's only recently that the UK government has actually put their hands up and said, yes, what we did there was wrong. But there was a lot of control over the media. There's a great film called Philomena. I highly recommend you watch that. Judi Dench, Steve Coogan, very touching film that goes really into the cover-ups and what was being done during that time. And then, of course, we got, and this reflects when the government is saying trusted sources. One of the biggest scandals that hit, this is probably about 5-6 years ago, I think, was the Jimmy Savile scandal and the cover-ups and the fact that the BBC was at the heart of silencing anybody who spoke out against this celebrity and the incredible abuse that he did at that time. So, Madman, I think that's in a nutshell. There's a lot more to discuss about this.
Yeah,
but
does
that
more.
give you the kind of
There's
start?
a lot. I mean, part of it, of the news part of it, is just one part of the situation that's going on as well. Yeah. You mentioned the Jimmy Savile. I talked about this before in this channel. I think it was well over a year ago, and I said how they've been ripping off the things off his grave. His grave is now unmarked. Now, some of the accolades that he received, him being named on buildings, has all been have been removed. And the thing is, this is of years of this being hidden by the government and the media. Yeah.
So when you get a green paper like this, which talks about trying to put, and in the consultation, they use the term trustworthy. They use things like trustworthy and putting trustworthy in front. There's questions like, for example, one of the questions, let me just get this up. Do you feel individual users should be given an option in whether performance measures for trustworthy news are switched on or off for them? And one of the answers is yes, they should be given an option, or no, they should always have that information put in front of them. There's another one that talks about, when should these sources be put in front of people, with one of the answers being ongoing, always. It should always be there. These trusted sources should always be on top of your feed, should always be in your face. And another one says only during periods of heightened vulnerability, whatever that means. We're talking jargon within this consultation, and I would urge, if you're a UK citizen, you need to fill in this consultation, you need to read it carefully, and you need to give your views. One of the most important questions on this, question 4, do you believe trustworthy news content should be more visible on social media? And there are 3 answers: yes, no, not sure. Click no, because no matter your political beliefs, no matter your leanings, this level of control to the government will affect us all, and not just in the UK. Once it works in the UK, this will be rolled out globally.
And if you think this is not going to happen here, already the first part of it has passed in the House this past week at the Kids Act. That has legislation similar to what the UK is pushing. Now, will it pass the Senate? I don't think so. I don't think it has the votes to do it. But this is about maybe the 4th or 5th time something like this has been pushed. You hear CASA, Kids Act, online safety bills. And the thing about it is, and I'll put it to this person, to this presence, who's behind this? What you're seeing here on this thumbnail is some of the people that are behind this, and organizations that are behind it. This is not everybody, but you have from left to right. You have Julie Eamon from Australia. She used to be American. She's the head of the censorship boards that are going on right now, passing that under 16 bill and everything that's going on in Australia at this moment. The other two ladies, the one in the middle is Dame Angela Eagle. She is in the UK government and has been part of this situation. I believe isn't she part of Ofcom?
I think she might be on. I'll need to have a look.
I think she might be under Ofcom. The last woman is a documentarian called Baroness Beeman Kittredge, and basically she has been working with politicians here in the United States, in Utah, and many other that have been pushing the age verification laws, the online safety bills. You know, they're trying to push Ofcom, Collective Shout, NOSC. I've talked many a time about NOSC, that originally Morality and Media. They're trying to push back the obscenity laws back into this country again. We don't need that back again, where people were being arrested just for making, for example, Lenny Bruce, George Carlin, many producers, people that have been arrested for making certain type of movies, certain type of newspapers and books and stuff like that have been pushed into the, that were trying to be put into the mainstream, and yet people were offended, and these people were arrested and put in jail to that point. Cam says, the reality is that any claim limits or reasons that is a lie, that they will always have excuses, that there are no limits on this crap. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely correct to this situation. Last year alone, Gab, you don't hear too much about Gab as much as it used to be. But Gab told the UK where to shove it. They geo-blocked them in the, as far as access to Gab in the UK, unless you're using a VPN. And yes, they're coming after the VPNs.
Yeah,
Texas and Utah have already put up VPN laws that are coming into. One of them has come into play already to the situation. I believe it's Texas, if I'm not mistaken, or it might be Utah. This is a scary situation. When you see it in the United Kingdom and you say, well, that's not going to affect us, you're wrong. As a content creator, as the three of us here, as content creators, we have audiences in the United Kingdom and vice versa. It will be affected by that. It's a starting point. It is it's the next salvo in this war on the internet. This is what they're trying to do, is censor this, to try to push all this together into one world situation where you don't have a voice on the internet or anywhere. They're going to remove the movies that you like. They say, well, we got to get rid of the pornography. No, the pornography isn't the issue. Anime and manga are not the issue. R-rated movies, we talk about, that was what's supposed to be this week's topic, was citizen vigilant. And they're saying, oh, it's all this, heavy violent and racist and all this sorts of situation. There have been plenty of films in history of Hollywood, Death Wish, Miss 45, I Spit on Your Grave, that are similar in nature. The villains have changed. Yes, Hollywood has always changed up the villains. And that it goes according to what is going on out there. Now they just want to eliminate that. And yes, Dave, what happened during the pandemic? What happened right here on YouTube, right here, over on Twitter and X, before Elon took over Twitter? The censorship alone during the election. Not to bring up too much on there. The elections. Of course, the pandemic itself. All of that, and now it's coming back. It's coming back where people are going to be arrested now because of the lies that were thrown out. We have lawsuits pending in this country right now to that point. We're seeing, at this moment, there's a trial going on right now in Utah, the Charlie Kirk trial. The one person who, decided to.
Yeah. Everyone knows it. Sorry.
Yeah, you see it right here on YouTube. To that point, are they going to block that eventually? Are they going to block that situation? No, that's very important to watch, because that is what is going on. They're trying to censor the voices of everybody. I know Outpost hasn't come in here yet, but Outpost, give us your 2 cents.
This is, I think, here in America, it stems from what was it? The Smith Modernization Act in 2012. It was signed by Obama, which allowed the government to use propaganda against the American citizen. That's what we're seeing. That's where a lot of the issues we're facing now stems from. There are how many times are you told, oh, you or the police can lie to you? You dare lie to the police. The government believes he has these extra powers. And have you noticed that every country that wants to censor people, you know what the one excuse is they use nearly 90% of the time?
Go ahead.
Oh, think of the children. The poor children need protecting. That's the family's job, not the government's job.
Well, no. Here's the thing. The thing about it is, they say the women, the children's a situation, but yet, what has happened around the world? They have not resolved the trafficking, the attacks, and we're not going to go deep into these because unfortunately, YouTube, their algorithm. But the thing about it is, there are situations about women and children that that they're not being protected. They're not being protected. I'm sorry to interrupt you on Outpost. I just had to bring in those 2 cents on there for that.
Well, that's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm excited on this one.
You don't hear about stories when it doesn't fit the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Just in Pensacola this week alone, we had about 7 shootings that left 30, 40 people injured. Did you hear about that on the news? No, because it did not fit the narrative. Working in the news like I did, I literally heard our local news director. It's not just national news, people. You need to be focused on the news station in your town. It's not national news or federal news. It starts at the local news. Your fellow citizens of your towns that are the ones trying to brainwash you. I literally heard the news director at the news station that has been around for almost 100 years in my town. This is a man who I grew up listening to. I'm 38 years old. I have listened to this man my entire life. And you know what he said to these reporters? He said, it is our job to tell people what to think. It is not our job to tell them the news. And I worked during that summer, the summer of 2018, and we all remember, it was just mentioned a few minutes ago what happened during that summer. So I saw the propaganda firsthand, up close, that we dealt with that year. I believe that was just a trial run for something coming bigger down the road.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, we need more people speaking out so we can decide for ourselves who's right and who's wrong. And I'm sorry, this is why I think Canada, any country that has a flagrant government-supported news networks like Canada and the UK, that's just asking for issues, in my opinion. That is asking for propaganda when you have government-funded news stations. I mean, look what they did to the BBC did a year or two ago, Donald Trump, or a couple years ago during his speech in 2020. They literally spliced it up to make it sound like he was telling people, go and riot. They literally took out 20 minutes of his speech. The BBC took out 20 minutes of his speech to make it sound like he was telling people to go riot, go attack the Capitol, when that was the furthest thing from the truth. I'm tired of being told what to think, how to think, telling what to like. I don't like half the shit Hollywood comes out of, but if I bet my bottom dollar, I have about $34 left in my bank account right now. I would bet every cent of it. If Warner, Universal, Paramount, they started going under, Washington, under a Democratic president, would not hesitate for a minute to jump in and give them money. because they want these propaganda arms. Hollywood is the American propaganda arm that the BBC and all these other stations are in the UK. Yes, that's another thing. I grew up in the time where it was kids being sit in front of the TV. We were taught by like Barney and Sesame Street and all that. Now it's parents sitting their kids in front of tablets and cell phones. My niece is 11. She doesn't have a cell phone, but she's on her grandmother's cell phone all the time, and it bothers me. Go touch grass. Some of the funnest times I had was going to jump on the trampoline or going outside and playing pretend. Grab a stick and it's a sword. It's like that segment of Sesame Street that had Elmo and Robin Williams, and he had a stick, and Robin Williams told Elmo how everything you could do with it. This is what we don't have anymore, and this is control the kids, control the future. That's all it comes down to. Control the kids, control the future. That's why so many of these ideologues, they don't go out and onto the streets. They go to the colleges where kids are still trying to decide what they want to do, and then they propagandize them in the colleges. And no, Israel was never a French colony. It was this.
Relax. Relax. I just want to say hello to Tim Kinnis,
the Israeli people,
and do so win on there. We just welcome onto there. One thing I want to bring up, this little page here on Lucy Powell. She's trying to push right now to shut down social media during elections. In other words, you can't here YouTube and Twitter and all that. You won't be able to access it during the election period because basically they don't want people's opinions out there. This is the scary thought. Also, on top of that, we mentioned her before on there. Julie Iman Grant, she's looking for more power in Australia. Understand the age verification laws, the under 16 laws and stuff like that, they're starting to fail. I mean, they're literally starting to fail. Under 16 law in Australia, kids are putting mustaches on themselves to just override the virtual part of it to be approved so they'd be able to use the internet.
We can't forget that, it's what you said there, Outpost, that kids consuming social media, they need to go out, they need to touch grass more. It's these arguments that are being used to bring in the under 16 ban, which is kids shouldn't be consuming social media at a young age. They should be out, they should be playing, they should be enjoying themselves. And in Australia, I know people are getting around it, but generally, I think, a lot of the polls are showing Australians like it because it's freeing up the kids a bit more, getting them away from devices, and getting them more, into playing outside, playing with each other and doing something else. The concern here,
job to tell them that.
I know, but can I finish, Outpost? The problem you've got, it's failing, and this is now where the government will step in, and the government will say, we have a way of making sure it doesn't fail, and that is your government issued ID that you use to log on to the internet. It'll be your age verification. They want these systems to fail because their solution is what they really want long term. One ID that you use to log on to the internet, and then everything is tracked through that ID. Within the UK, they've been talking about having software installed on every mobile phone, every tablet, every PC that scans what you're doing at the desktop level. So even if you have a VPN, this is happening before anything is encrypted. And they've got a long way to go because I can imagine lawyers and other professional services will be saying, we can't allow that because we have a confidentiality agreement that we have with our clients. And if you can see that confidential information, how can we maintain that confidentiality with our clients? We can't. So you're going to make us breach our agreements, many of which are legal responsibilities on us. So there's a big battle going on here. They're trying to tackle VPNs in the same way, and that's going to fail because a lot of companies will say we need our staff to have VPNs, otherwise our data is open.
Yeah. And the EU is pushing right now to peer-to-peer, which is basically now they want to read your chats as you send your chat, you hit that send, they want to read it before it hits to the other end.
Yeah. The biggest
trying to push that legislation right now.
The biggest concern I got is within the UK, they are talking about legislation, and I'll find an update for a future show, but they're talking about legislation that will force every phone provider to have an app that the government uses to see what's on your phone. Within North Korea, if you are lucky enough to have a phone, you have this app, and it takes a screenshot every couple of seconds. And you can see the screenshots it's taken, but you can't delete them. You can't do anything with them. And they show screenshotting what you're accessing, what you're texting, what you're doing on the internet. But the government can access that. The government can see at any point what you've been doing. And
sorry, go ahead, Dina.
No, I would imagine what the UK government are proposing here is a more advanced version of that, where it's constantly scanning your content, what you're doing, and that happens before any encryption. So they'll get it on WhatsApp before WhatsApp can encrypt. They'll get it on your internet before your VPN can encrypt. And so the more the systems like the under 16s fail, the more ammunition it gives our governments to say, well, we have the solution. So they're trying to get people on board by saying it's for the children for a good reason. And you yourself, our Outpost, even said kids need to go out and touch grass. And that's the argument they're using. But in return, it will fail, and they will say, we have the solution. And the solution is this one ID, it's these apps, it's this overreach to make sure the children are safe and to make sure you're not accessing content you shouldn't be accessing.
Yeah, Tim says here, I'm in England and none of this is hidden or unlikely to really happen. It's happening, Tim. It is really happening. Even though you have the Labour Party is going to be out of the situation, the Pandora's box is already open. And it's going to be very hard to close.
Well, they're wanting to do this in America, but just not on phones. You know what they want to do this in America? There's someone who I can't remember her name. She wanted to put that kind of technology on 3D printers.
Oh, it's across the board.
Yeah, it's that's going ahead so that no one can 3D print a gun. I remember rightly.
What if I'm 3D printing props and I need a prop laser pistol or something?
You won't be able to do it.
You won't be able to. No,
you won't be able to. This is where unfortunately this is where we have the Supreme Court still in this country. And the thing about it is, a lot of people say, well, they ran against this, they ran against that. Always remember, when you bring up something to the Supreme Court, you have to put it to the value of what exactly you're trying to fight. Now, people will say, well, like for example, just recently with the birthright citizenship, they didn't like what to the point, but they went to the point where they accessing it through the 14th. Now, what we need to do is the 14th needs to be reclarified. That's the issue. A lot of the laws and regulations and constitutionality in this country have been twisted. I mean, you hear the situation, sovereign citizen situation. That's something that needs to be, redone. It needs to be clarified to that situation, because people are trying to use old laws, old constitutionalities, and says, well, it's meant for us, and it wasn't really meant for that particular group. It was meant for another type of group itself. In the case of the 14th Amendment and some of the stuff that's in there, it was meant for the slaves and the Native American Indians of that time period in the past, because of all the changes that were going on in America growing up at that point. And people don't realize it's that. And they say, well, no, it says this now. So it means that, it's meant for this regulation, on there. But no. Clarifications need to be, you can't just go into the Supreme Court says, well, they're trying to censor the internet and we want to stop them. You can't just say that. You got to be very detailed to the point. I tell a lot of people, take a moment, listen to when SCOTUS has those live streams, when they have those live feeds where the two parties are fighting over this. Listen to what is said, listen to the evidence that is point. That is what's the important thing. Free Speech Coalition, ACLU, and a bunch of other groups, they've been fighting this for quite some time as far as the age verification and the censorship bills. And some of them have won and some of them have lost. And, the thing about it is they got to go back from the beginning and start over and find out what they need to prove to the SCOTUS to say this violates the Constitution.
So, Dean, I was thinking about what you said. So, it sounds like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't in your
absolutely. Because I'm with you. I think
I want to clarify that.
Yeah,
my thing is.
Sorry, go.
My thing is less government, more parents. That's the thing. We don't need the government telling us about. It's like Hillary Clinton said, it takes a village to raise a child. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. That is just disgusting communist overreach. And if you listen to what a lot of these people are saying, it's just rewording things that Stalin, what's his name, Karl Marx, and all these communists. It's just rewording of what they said to make it sound flowery and pretty to modern people now. Mamdani does that all the time. Some of the he said the we want to bring everyone into the warm embrace of community or something like that. I can't remember the exact comment. That was just almost exactly what has been said in these before. So I was just wanted to clarify that if I had heard that right.
Yeah. The point I was making is I'm with you. I think the parent should be in charge of their child, so long as they don't overstep their boundaries of authority. And B, children not consuming social media at a young age is important for a child. I think that is vitally important. The problem you've got is it's being used to, kind of slam this legislation through. The under 16. So Tim said unlikely to happen in the UK. Well, the under 16 ban has happened in Australia. And because it's now happened in one country, they've got a template to roll out in other countries. So it will happen over here.
We have a template in the United States also.
Yeah. And if the UK get away with forcing YouTube and other streaming services to push the local terrestrial TV channels, it will be rolled out because corporate interests across the globe will be putting pressure on their governments to say, we want that. We're no longer being watched on TV and no one goes to our streaming platforms, or not many, but you got hundreds of millions on YouTube and these other platforms. We want to be there and we want to be promoted. So yeah, the moment it happens, they've got a template and they'll push it out. And as I said, the more often it fails, once it's been pushed out, that's more ammunition for the government to turn around and say, we need one internet ID, and you use that ID whenever you're on the internet.
And how many companies are saying now, we're not going to do this, but once with these countries that are going to start putting pressure on them to say, be like, oh, you want to make money in our country, you need to do this. They're going to cave for the sake of their bottom line.
But there are some companies that are working with these groups also as well. This is like a half and half. Some of them don't want this to happen. There's the other half that wants it to happen because it brings them more money into their pockets, more control to the situation. Like I said, this thumbnail, who's behind the censorship? This is just only a piece of the people that are behind this. Always remember these people that you see here in these organizations. Collective Shout, NOS, they always push this as exploitation. This has nothing to do about exploitation. If they wanted to cure exploitation, they would be out on the streets of, like, for example, here in New York, they will be on the streets at Roosevelt Avenue, Queens, flooding out all the women that are there that have been brought in as human trafficking and put enslaved in the streets and on Roosevelt Avenue on that. And the thing about it is, this is going on all over the world. They're not going to resolve these situations. They want to blame everything. They want to blame the movies. They want to blame the video games. They want to blame the anime. They want to blame the pornography. But the thing about it is, everything, like it said here, it starts at home. To that point.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Collective Shout, they were hitting the payment processors. to get Steam to stop selling certain games. And yeah, they could probably point to some very extreme games that were on Steam, but then they broaden that net. They broaden the description. Once they've got a description in of what should be banned, it then gets broadened to include a lot of other stuff. And it's a parent should be saying what their child watches or consumes and should be responsible about that. It shouldn't be the remit of the government. But yeah, a lot of parents get scared. The mainstream media scares them, and they say to the government, "Help us, save us," and this is the result. So yeah,
it just I've talked about well over a year on this channel, and I've given all the warnings. I've told people beware of Ofcom, beware of NOS, aka Morality and Media. They're not going to stop. They're being funded by groups on there. The same fundings you see that are trying to fund, what you hear about elections. Those are the same people that are pumping money into these groups as well. It is all over the place. Is China involved? Yeah, China's involved in it. To that point. Are some certain religious groups on there? Yeah, they're radical divisions of, say, Christianity, of Mormon, and many others that are trying to push, their agenda in here. This has nothing to do with basically the Catholic Church directly. It doesn't have to do with Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints directly, but there are those within those religions that are trying to push their agenda. They're trying to push back the laws. They want to bring back the Hays Code. They want to bring back the obscenity laws. They want to push to the point where they are in control of the information, your education, what kind of job, where you're going to live. This is the things that you need to look at. For us as content creators, we need to push hard on this. We can't sit back and say, well, it's somewhere else, it's not going to affect me. No, it's going to affect you. It's just a matter of time. You can't just sit there and say, sit on your hands and say, yeah, cover your ears or cover your eyes and say, nah, I don't want to be involved in it. No, if you want to continue on this service, if you want to continue on YouTube, you want to continue on Rumble, you want to continue on all this, and you have fun, because there are some great content creators here, some great shows, some great information that is put out there, information that basically the mainstream media is like, nah, you don't need that, you don't need that at all, that basically is important out there. Why do you think a lot of people are watching more of our programming than the mainstream media? You have people like Tim Pool, you have people like Steven Crowder, and many others that rank in the ratings higher than CNN, MSNBC, or whatever they're calling them now, MSNBC, and most of them, even Fox, higher than even Fox. Think about that for a minute. Think about the people that come on. Think about the guests that a lot of these channels had. We had RJ Carter. Showed us some great stuff onto there. We had Peter Jurasik from Babylon 5 on here, and we're working on many other guests onto there. And you've seen in other shows, other channels that have had some great guests, both from Hollywood and from politics themselves, that are willing to come and talk to us, because we are the ones that are the new type of media that the people want. Thoughts on that?
Well, we are fans creating what fans want. One thing we've talked about recently, it used to be Hollywood used to be movies made by studios ran by directors who made the movies that people loved them, people wanted them. They listened to the people. Now it's all about, one thing works well, we're going to beat it to like a dead horse. We're going to the Stargate. Millions of people want new Stargate, more Stargate. But look what happened. They decided, oh, I don't like sci-fi, so we're going to cancel it. Why? You're not. It should not be about you, the producer or the studio execs. It should not be about the studio execs. It should be about what the people want. People. So alternative media has grown because it's what people want, made by people who love the things they make. And have you ever, like, I've gone back 5, 10, 15 years to watch YouTubers who've been on forever. And compared to what they do now is so tame and boring compared to what they do. The things they would say would get them canceled. So you could just see how, just over time, how the grip of censorship has gotten. And it's sad. You can't talk about things that are important without. There's a local political commentator who does Rumble in my town. He posted everything this morning on YouTube, and literally he's been doing Rumble for about a year or two. So he's got every day. So he's got hundreds of streams. Every single one of them, when he posted them on YouTube this morning, is demonetized. So we need alternate media like Rumble. When are they going to start coming after Rumble? That's what I'm wondering. Like they are. Like, what was that other one that literally got shut down? It was another. I can't remember the name of it. Like they literally banned them from their servers so they couldn't do anything.
Well, the thing about it is, Rumble's ready. Rumble's ready for this. You know, they're ready. They're ready to get you because what was that other site that was on the far left? I forgot the name of the site that they just bent the knee to the UK, and the UK said, "Okay, you can say whatever you want on there."
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't remember.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, and I'll tell you this: for those of you new to the show and all that, I'm going to tell you again a little bit of my backstory. I've come from the original content creators. I come from the 1980s, where basically we were on public access. We created on there. Just recently, in about, I think it's 2 weeks, there's a documentary coming out on HBO, the Robin Bird Show. Old friend of mine's. We were both in the same studio. You know, she went through a lot of stuff back in the day to that situation. You know, she had an adult show. She had strippers, nudity, and all that. You know, light part. At that time, Time Warner, who owned the company at that time, which was Manhattan Cable TV, wanted to impose certain rules to this point, where basically on certain content, and it's not only Robin Bird, there's Gay Cable Network and a couple others, that basically they will censor them. In other words, they will scramble their channel, and if you wanted to see that, you had to fill out a form to be able to watch those shows. At the time period, and you got to remember at this time, Robin was a great activist at the time, Gay Cable Network as well, for the LGBT community at a time period where they were ostracized because of the AIDS crisis. Gay Cable Network was one of the forefront channels at that time period that was pushing out proper health information that needed to be out in the open at that time period. And meanwhile, Time Warner back then, you had to fill out, in other words, you were outing yourself to this point. Luckily, they took this to court, and Robin, Gay Cable Network, and all of them won. Because even the judge had said, I watched some of this programming. And the judge says, why should I fill out a form to watch something that's free? And see, the other half of this is, the funny part about this is that at that time period also, it was affecting the bottom line of Time Warner, because Time Warner at the time, you had pay-per-view adult stuff. Meanwhile, you had these channels that were giving it away for free.
That's all it is if you do anything that affects the bottom line of the establishment, you're the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If I could add to this, because of course YouTube is actively fighting what is going on because YouTube model is all about user created content, getting in front of the right users. Now, say what you want about their demonetization policies and stuff like that. I suspect they're walking a fine line between legislation, trying to do potentially what's right for their business model, which is at the bare basics, putting the content you want to consume in front of you. And now you've got the UK government who's saying, well, actually, you're not going to be able to do that. You have to push ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, the BBC. You have to put that in front of the users. And then the content that might actually interest them is pushed down. Do you know what will happen to YouTube's user base within the matter of probably 6 months? It will collapse. You know, in the same way that cable TV has utterly collapsed over the years. YouTube will collapse even quicker, because if you log into YouTube and you can't find what you want, if your suggested channels are no longer appearing and it's all this BBC ITV stuff, and if you're there going, why am I doing this? Because I'm not seeing the content I want to watch, you will find somewhere else that does it. And I do wonder, are we going to see a return of forums? You're going to pop on to a forum, Lost Media, and you'll start to search the forum to find the content you want. And there'll be this channel that advertises on the forum. And then you just pop in and see their videos. God, we're going back to the 90s and early 2000s, where forums were the way we shared this information. You know, YouTube was in its infancy, and you would watch videos on forums, and then you would email them to each other. And with the file sizes you could put on email, are we going to start emailing each other what the content, because we can't consume it on these platforms because the government control these platforms? So yeah, YouTube, say what you want about their algorithms. They got some real problems there. Say what you want about them demonetizing. They are actively fighting this because they know this is bad for their bottom line. In the same way that the people fighting for this are the legacy media that are beginning to see their days number, that are becoming less and less relevant. Yeah.
They're the ones who are warning us. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't they trying to push a regulation onto Netflix and all the other streaming sites that would put them back into the situation of the TV licensing, that because Netflix and all that carried BBC and ITV programming, the argument, say, well, you're going to still have the license on that.
Exactly. The argument put forward is, if you're within the UK and you're watching Netflix and there's BBC content available on Netflix, you need to have a BBC license. However, I think they've hit problems where Netflix have said, well, we license this, so that license has already been paid for. You know, so why does the UK person have to pay an additional license to watch this content? So I think that's hit a quagmire, and I'll need to do a bit of research on it. But if the government gets away with this, as I said earlier, this will push forward, because effectively you need a license to watch terrestrial TV. And now this will become your terrestrial TV. You will need a BBC license to access the internet. And I think that's their final goal. It's all about bringing money back into these archaic institutions that only peddle what the government wants to say, and peddle very you know, they're not very even-handed in their approach. They always have an agenda. They always push forward an agenda and a point of view, and they're not very open to an alternate point of view. And if you turn around and say, well, I love the BBC, their content's great because it supports my view, what happens when the BBC starts to change and there's nothing now you can do about it because you supported them at this point instead of resisting this? I would rather you as a consumer have the ability to watch whatever you want, and every consumer gets that ability rather than it being forced on you. So
that is you just hit the nail on the head of a political philosophy that a lot of people don't understand and refuse to. If the people I agree with get this power, well, what is going to happen when that power changes hands? It's like here in America, they want to get rid of the filibuster. Or well, okay, that is what's going to happen if they get rid of it, and then the other side comes in. They're going to start abusing it just like they're afraid you're going to do it. It's this balancing act that I think people are not aware of of how the world needs to be. I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because, you know, it's, and this is all you hear is, you know, all the complaints is like, oh, Trump. That's all you hear. But yet there are improvements, you know, the things that are being pushed that have been working, that's been, you know, that's happening in this country. And it's, as far as our energy, the other day, Maldami was saying, oh, well, you got to put your thermostats to 78. New Yorkers were like, oh, screw yourself. We ain't going to do that. The thing is, oh, but your lights going to go out, and lights did go out. Do you know why lights going out? Because our energy infrastructure is very weak. Puerto Rico right now, they get rolling blackouts. Why? Because they're dealing with an infrastructure that is over 50 years old, run by a company that is so corrupt that the infrastructure will not be rebuilt unless somebody walks in there and says, get rid of this company. We're going to rebuild the infrastructure properly. Remember, at this technological standpoint, we can build small nuclear reactors, much smaller than the ones that have been built in the past, that will take up the power issues onto there. When they talk about all these units that they're putting up the for the internet and the infrastructure situations that are going on, they said, well, it's going to take up all of our power and stuff like that. Well, yeah, we need to build more power sources to that point. We don't have enough of it. It is the regulation. It is those on the far,
like that building
far
you
right
mentioned
and the far left that have I'm sorry.
No, my stream
That's
keeps like freezing for like a few seconds, so I think y'all are done, and then I start talking, and I'm like, oh, I interrupted.
It's okay. It's all right. And the thing is that we need more energy into our infrastructure. China is building it, and a lot of the other Asian countries are building it. They said, oh, it's bad. We go nuclear energy. No, nuclear energy is one of the south. Find it. It is not going to be solar. It is not going to be wind. There is no way those are going to be what we use 100%, because as of right now, they don't generate it. And the big sites that they've built, like the one they built here in the desert in the United States, that is shutting down because they've run out of money, and the systems are breaking down so easily, and it's damaging the environment.
Within a year or two, I've heard so many people say this. The Hoover Dam will not be able to generate electricity anymore because the water shelf is getting too low.
Yep.
It's getting so low that it's not going to be able to reach the intakes. But Madman, it's like what you say, talking about New York. That the building that literally we're waiting on to collapse. What did they try to do? You said they tried to add 10 more stories for apartments, right? So they're not thinking. They're not thinking long term. They're wanting to get this done fast at the expense for everyone's safety and comfort.
No, but here's the strange part. Here's the part where it gets crazy, and this is as of recent. They just froze the rent for rent control people. People was like, yay, we're not going to get increases. Well, guess what? Remember that new boiler you needed? Or maybe that repair in your bathtub and all that? That's not going to get done because it costs money. It costs money from the landlord. They said, oh, they're greedy landlords. You know who's the greediest landlord in New York City? You know who it is?
Yeah.
New York City.
Their rates, their business rates.
They're greediest landlords. Go to a NYCHA apartment. The quality of life to live there is the most atrocious. There are third world countries that live better than a NYCHA apartment. They are disgusting, grotesque. They're full of the leak. They haven't repaired the leaks, so you have the mold and mildew. The air quality is horrendous, and that's not even pushing to the crime situations that happen.
I had a professor in college. He was my theater professor. He said he spent a year in New York working on Broadway. He would literally go home, go to his apartment after work, and he'd like blow his nose, and it would be black with soot from just walk. The air quality was so bad in New York City at the time.
Yep. We have thousands of apartments that can be filled. Once they're repaired, immediately the rent's going to be high. They're going to have to raise the rent. Obviously, I mean, right now, average rent in Manhattan alone is between 4 to 5,000 for an for just
For
a
a
small
studio
apartment.
apartment,
For
I've
studio,
heard.
yeah, for just a studio. Think about that for a minute. They're trying to make them smaller and smaller. There are plenty of places which you can get them up to about, say, 2,500 on the average, per month onto there, and as long as the repairs are done. It's so easy. The landlords, the owners of these properties are not putting it on there for that reason. And of course, who's joining us in the stream right now is Snob.
The rent is too damn high.
Yeah.
You're just catching us on the tail end of the whole YouTube situation on there.
Yeah, we've solved it now, Snob. Don't need your input.
All right, carry on. I've done my job here. My minions have
hold on,
done a good job.
Hold on one second.
Good job.
I think Outpost is dying there.
That's not me.
That's not. Oh, that must be Madman then.
Wow,
oh, poor
Dean,
Madman.
call me out like that. Jeez.
Oh, jeez. I do apologize. You were both flickering, and I was trying to work out who was coughing. It was like me.
That was me. I'm sorry.
It was like me earlier.
I drank a little water there.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll leave this off. Monitor him. If you're in the United States, contact your congressman or woman. Contact Washington. Call the White House. Flood the White House phones. Tell them what is going on overseas. The UK, Ofcom, and the rest of them cannot do this to us.
Yeah. If you're in the UK, get to the consultation, fill it in, let them know that you are not happy with this. Make sure you read the questions. Some of them are very tricky and trying to get you to answer a certain way to justify what they're doing. But if enough of us turn around and say no to this, then at least they can't use the consultation as proof that this is a good idea.
Yep, exactly. You got to put to the point, like Nancy Pelosi was saying, like, well, we got to pass it before you read it. No, read it so you don't pass it, because they will sneak in. So this stuff that's in the Kids Act that they pushed in the House, that basically will do a number to censorship in the United States alone. Again, like I said, it's not going to pass the Senate. It's not. They don't have the votes in the Senate to pass this, to that point.
But Dean, think of the children.
Don't.
Won't you think of the children?
I want the children to grow up in a world that's free and where they can think what they want to think.
Mm-hmm. So let's move on from this. So let's move on to this. Time for the box office. Now, normally we do that little middle thing, which basically I don't have one this week, so because I knew this was going to take a lot longer to talk about. So next week we'll bring it back in again. So let's jump over to the box office numbers for this weekend, which were even a bigger surprise than we thought we would be. We knew Minions and Monsters and Toy Story will go at it back to back, fighting for this situation. Considering that it was a 5-day weekend, because most of them it started on Wednesday, really into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, into there. We haven't got Monday's numbers yet. But it's safe to say right now, Minions and Monsters is up on top with 61 million, which they did. Overall, the weekend was 36, but overall 61, which was lower than any of the other Minion movies, Despicable Me's, to that point. Toy Story 5, obviously another 31 million, bringing them up to 366. They're worldwide, they're on their way to break $1 billion on that. It's safe to say on that. In third place, which we expected this to happen because it was a patriotic weekend, Young Washington did about 20 million on there, which is not too bad for low budget film onto that. In fourth place, obviously, which we expected, I'm surprised it stayed in fourth place in the top 5, is Supergirl, which was downgraded. Originally, they had them over the $1 billion mark, but it was retooled just in the last 24 hours to be just under the $1 million mark for that, which is, oh my God. And closing out the top 5, Disclosure Day, hanging in on the 5th on there with 6 million on there. Basically, are they going to make money on there on bank? I really don't think so. To this, getting to this point. Your thoughts, gentlemen?
I'm not surprised about these numbers. I'm really not. Disclosure Day just had big names on it. It wasn't anything uh, mind blowing. Supergirl, you have the people who are going. One, you have hate watchers who are going to watch it, and two, you have the people who will watch it no matter what. You know, these super fans that, oh, Marvel and DC can do no wrong kind of people. And Toy Story, it's Disney and Pixar. I'm not surprised.
Well,
I'm
it's
not really surprised about
800
these
million.
numbers.
It's almost 800 million on there for that. So expect it to hit the $1 billion mark probably in the next 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
on there. Now, will Minions and Monsters bank? Hard to say, but they probably most likely will be because it is a kid. It is a kids movie. Considering that this coming weekend you have the Moana live action
That looks dog shit.
and the Evil Dead, the next installment of the Evil Dead, which I heard is pretty gruesome for the Evil Dead.
I like the animated Moana.
been.
I enjoyed the first one. Not as much. I did not enjoy the second one as much, but this is way too soon to do a live action remake of a movie. It's only been 10 years, 10, 11 years since the original Moana came out. And I'm sorry, The Rock looks horrible as Moana, or Maui. It's awful.
The Rock's time is done. His 15 minutes is over. Even for wrestling, his time is done.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's lasted this long. Because it's like they put, they're coming out. I think they're coming out with another Jumanji.
Yes, this
Yeah, they
one,
are.
the video game characters, it switched. The video game characters go to the real world. So they've switched it this time. And I liked the second Jumanji movie because I thought it was such a interesting and well thought out progression from a board game to the modern times and turning it into a video game. I like the third one because I love Danny Glover and Danny DeVito together. They were so funny. But okay, that's done. We're done. Stop it. Stop beating a dead horse.
Say hello there, Gap After Dark. Hello, welcome back on that.
Yeah,
Thank you for
I'm
coming
going
on.
to find you and beat you. He's an Alabama fan, and he's always ragging me. He comes into my stream all the time because I wear my Auburn hat when I'm on screen.
Okay, now number 6 and 7, 6 and 7 in the top is of course Obsessions and Backroom, which Obsession is at 400 million, which is very excellent considering what it cost to make it. Backrooms is just about 50 million away from that as well. So both of these movies are very good. Jackass, another 2 million. They're not going to make that. I don't think they're going to break even. Scary Movie, same situation. There was a new movie called The Invite. I don't know what that is. That's Seth Rogen. No wonder. Only $1 million considering the weekend on there. They just done $1 million.
That's another guy that needs to go away.
Yeah.
He actually
And then, of course-
he had a role in Supergirl.
Hmm.
He played a little alien, like a 2-inch tall alien.
And then out of the top 10, obviously, is Masters of the Universe, which is about 112 million, which I believe this is the last week. They're gone after this week from the box office. And I'm surprised this is still in the box office. The Mandalorian and Grogu, Star Wars, 339 million. I don't think they're going to break even on that. And of course, Michael, I probably by this weekend will hit the $1 billion mark by this weekend. So, anyone else want to put in on that?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm surprised that Young Washington did so great. That's good for that movie. Supergirl, 77% weekly change. It says on mine. That's. I think I predicted 66. 76. I thought it might go a little higher. I thought it was being a little bit under, but that's pretty much what people thought. I think that movie's dead. I think it might have trouble breaking 150. It's not going to do any better next week. There's even more stuff coming out. It'll just be just going to further sink. Imagine Obsession and Backrooms. They came out on. They went on video on demand, I believe. Or
They
something.
hit physical media this week.
Yeah, physical media. So imagine if they hadn't hit physical media, they probably would have done better than they are here. But now you can watch it at home. So that might have been interesting if they had another week. They might have, potentially could have beaten Supergirl. But it's interesting. That movie is just getting hammered, man.
And Obsession and Backrooms are getting sequels onto themselves. Young Washington, we're hearing that it will be getting a sequel as well. I think they're doing. I think they're calling it 1776. Young Washington.
I thought they were calling it middle-aged Washington.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I can't believe just how badly Supergirl has done. I know we expected it to do bad, but if I'm not mistaken, it's only made about 100K worldwide. Is that right?
100 million.
100 million.
Barely,
100K.
barely.
100 million worldwide. Barely.
It's about
just barely.
Yeah, just below that. Maybe
But
right on the 99.
Using the 2.5 factor for how much it needs to make to get a profit, it needed to have made 437 million. That's a huge loss. How can it was I forget the director's name now.
James Gunn.
James Gunn, thank you. How can James Gunn justify his tenure with Warner Brothers, isn't it? Who did this with the DC universe? How can he go on to continue making these films? Because
go ahead.
Because he will blame us. He will.
But bottom line figures, a studio can only keep backing a director for so long. If they keep making a loss, at some point the studio is going to go. It doesn't matter who did it. The fact your films are making a loss means we can't. You seem to be the common factor.
Was his brother in this one? I don't even know that because he puts his brother in every single movie he does. He was in Guardians. He was in Superman. He was in.
Who is his brother?
His brother, in Guardians, he played this Yondu's second in command.
Oh God, him.
Yeah, and then he went on to play Maxwell Lord in Peacemaker and Superman, the sponsor for the Justice Society or whatever you call them.
Yeah.
But he's in every movie. That man only has a acting career because of his brother.
Yeah.
He's funny actor, but
yeah. You're looking at like at least 150 to 200 plus loss for Supergirl.
Yeah, easily. Yeah,
and
maybe higher. Maybe higher.
We're going to see that again with the Odyssey because the same mistake. The actresses are making the same mistake by not keeping their big mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
Because the actress who plays, she's that Nigerian actress. I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name. I'm not. Yeah, it don't matter. She said over the weekend, she criticized Homer for not writing about the female perspective in the Odyssey. Yeah. Like, lady, tell me you never read it because part of the story is Penelope dealing with her husband being away from home for 20 years at war.
Yeah, and Athena guiding them home and helping them.
Well, they're reading this particular translation was written by someone who's.
I did a whole story. I have a whole video about this. She translated with a very liberal leaning point of view. I think a lot of people too are misconstruing this movie with the Iliad. The story of the actual Trojan War. This is the Odyssey. This is after. So why are we hearing about Helen of Troy? We don't really hear about them in the Iliad all that much. I mean, in the Odyssey all that much.
Doesn't it start with kind of the fall of Troy?
It does, but the Iliad is the entire Trojan War. The Odyssey is Odysseus's journey from going off to war all the way till he comes back. Like it's like the Odyssey starts with him being summoned by the other kings of Greece to go off to and take the armies of Ithaca off to war. One of my favorite miniseries was that I think 99 or 2000 miniseries they did, which was amazingly done. Can't remember the actor who played Odysseus, but it's basically like Odysseus gets too big for his britches. His plan would have failed if it was not for the help of Poseidon. Poseidon sent the serpent to eat the man who was about to tell the Trojans, "Hey, there are people in that horse," and he's like, "I did it. I conquered Troy. I conquered the unconquerable city." And Poseidon's like, "For your arrogance, you will never go home. You will never make it home for your arrogance." And Athena helps him, and he learns. He learns that, and this is where I think people want. This is the point of view in this entire story that people want to change. In the Odyssey, Odysseus had to learn, I'm nothing without the gods. And now they're wanting to. That's completely foreign. That's an insulting concept to so many people nowadays. That no. Oh, I need this big invisible person to help me. And that's the story. I think that's where the story's has gotten twisted and perverted nowadays. Sorry. Little rant.
No, it's okay.
No, it's okay. So
and the thing is the Odyssey will be out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And
$250
they're the
million
only
budget.
thing that's coming out.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's coming out that week.
Do we think it's going to do well? I mean, it needs to make at least 625 million to break even. Rough figures.
Rough.
I think it's. I mean, it's hard to say until we get to it. It's got a lot of bad press.
Yeah.
But it's got a bad press in kind of the areas where I'm. The internet is all where you hang out, right?
Mm.
So the people that I hear most or come on my timeline are trashing it, but that doesn't mean that the general public is that way as well. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting. It'll be kind of a test of the the power of whose ability to influence the general public. Plus, I mean, I think a lot of the first, the initial critics and stuff will probably influence that a lot as well on how well it does. But we'll see. A lot of star power.
And I think that's part of the. Hold on, I'm glad you said that, Snob, because I think that's part of the problem. So many of these movies have such a huge cast. How much of their budget is actually going to pay the actors? It used to be you had maybe 1 or 2, 3 big name actors in a movie, but now you have an entire cast of these multi-million-dollar actors being paid a shit ton of money to the point that you don't have any money to spend on the movie itself. I'm just going through my head of all the actors in the Odyssey. Matt Damon playing Odysseus for some weird reason.
You got Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, another big name. I mean,
another big name. Yeah. Well, the initial views. I mean, it's doing its world premiere at the moment, and I think they did London the other day, and I was having a look at the kind of the feedback, and it seemed to be. And bearing in mind, this is select people who've been invited, it seems to be positive, as in people are saying it's quite a spectacular. The acting is superb, and acting can really carry a movie. You can take a bad movie and it can be okay. Matt Damon, ever since, you know, I really fell in love with his acting when I saw him in The Martian. Before that, it was like I could take him, leave him. In The Martian, he was brilliant, and you know, for me, it elevated. It's the same with I'm trying to think, the Leonardo DiCaprio. Didn't like him in anything, and then I saw him in Inception, and it completely altered my perception of his acting. If they've got the actors doing fantastic acting in this, if the action scenes aren't so confusing, and minimal use of CGI, a lot more practical effects, this movie could have legs. You know, despite the fringe elements, the bits, you know, you got this one actress who's going to appear just at the start and probably be done. You know, the stuff the internet's complaining about, I think, is on the fringes of the movie, and the core of the movie is about this journey home. So I do wonder whether we've actually got a bit of a surprise on our hands here, and this will do the course.
Well, the only problem with that is that, I mean, you're making good points, Dean. There, it might be fringe, but it speaks to a basicness, I mean, of the film. If they're going to use, and remember which version of the Odyssey that they're using, the feminist version, that could affect the entire way that the movie's made, and it could turn it out to be, just a piece of feminist propaganda as opposed to, more towards the story, which could greatly affect it. So, devil's in the details, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You could be right, but we don't know.
We don't know at the moment.
Now, remember to the point.
I don't trust the early people too.
Hold on. I just want to point out one issue, and you're talking about, Dean. A lot of this criticism we had at the start was because we didn't know. A lot of the stuff was still unknown. Like, a lot of people thought, not Ellen Page. What's her name?
Elliot Page.
Elliot Page. It was when she was put on the project. There was rumors she was going to play Achilles, or he was going to play Achilles. No, he's playing Odysseus's servant, who actually is killed by Circe.
Yeah, convinces the I think it's the Trojans to take in the wooden horse.
Yeah, and so it's not. A lot of this is from ignorance, which I will, like I always say. Here's my thoughts on the upcoming movie. But I'm gonna wait and see, and then decide, and you can decide for yourself. That's how I'm like. These are just my personal views. I'm not looking forward to it because the armor in the trailers looked plastic. It looked very cheap. Matt Damon, I do enjoy him. I've enjoyed him ever since Good Will Hunting. I thought that was one of my. I enjoyed that. Robin Williams and his performance in it was just awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
So there's you got to, when you're casting, and this is where I think you got to think the region. You can't just. I read an entire letter from the Greek people criticizing the casting in this movie. So it's,
yeah, but they criticize the casting because I don't think many Greeks, if any, were.
There's not a single Greek person cast in this movie.
It's a Hollywood movie. Yeah, it's going to be a Hollywood movie, and it's going to have limited. I mean, you can obviously see it's being done to try and win Oscars. Every box has been ticked. And I wonder with even I mean, you look at it, Dune ticked a lot of the boxes to make sure Liet Kynes being, race swapped and sex swapped. However, I think the actress really pulled it off in Dune. She took the spirit of the character, and even though it was originally a male character, she managed to pull off who Liet Kynes was within that movie. Miracles can happen even when castings are done slightly differently, and I'm not so precious that we have to. The Iliad is a fantasy. The Odyssey is a fantasy story, and just like Shakespeare can be retold using different actors and different methods and stuff like this. And
no. I think it's an historical fantasy because it's based on historical. Like, for centuries, we thought it was fantasy. until they found Troy. They found the ruins of the city of Troy.
I'm not saying it's not based on some historical
Okay.
events, but you think of the stuff that happens on that journey. There's no way some of that is real, let alone the gods guiding them. You know,
well, you got to also remember, and this is from another YouTuber, Pens and Poison, who comes from a literary end, that she tried to go to Columbia, and basically she had to drop out because basically what were they teaching in English lit? They were teaching more politics than basically the actual novels themselves. They were taking Shakespeare and they were throwing LGBTQ situations into a lot of the Shakespeare's plays into that point, instead of focusing on the actual writings of Shakespeare and many other writers down there. They're focusing on more the books that they're trying to push in the universities are nothing to do with any of the novels of the great writers of the past. They're talking about the writers now that basically they're pushing agendas to this point. So when you see something like this, The Odyssey, which, looking at the box office last couple of weeks between Star Wars, Master of the Universe, Jackass, Scary Movie, Disclosure Day, Supergirl, and Minions and Monsters, they were supposed to do better, even though they were not going to rank top, but the numbers that they've done were much lower than anticipated, especially Minions and Monsters. Minions and Monsters should have been at least 150 million, at least, for a 5-day weekend. For them to do $60 million on a kid, you can't blame the situation. You can't blame World Cup. You can't. You know, New York had a heat wave. Where's the best place to hide from a heat wave? Inside a movie theater.
Yeah,
take your kids to a movie theater. You know, because the beaches were jam packed here in New York. Whether it was Orchard Beach, Coney Island, they were all jam packed. Better off to slave off the heat, go to a movie. Much cooler. You sit back, relax, take in the air conditioner and all that. Didn't happen. Why did it happen? It could be the people are tired of a lot of the stuff that's being pushed out there. Minions and Monsters, I think they're coming to their end situation. Same thing with Toy Story. Yes, both will make money. They'll break even to that point. But I think we're getting to the end of those stories. You know, Lakia Studios, which is making all these stop motion animation movies, they're most likely making movie. And why are there more of a better studio than these? Is because they don't make Coraline 2. They're not going to make Jubo and the String Guitar 2. They're going to make one story after another. Wildwood, which is coming out after the summer, at the end of the summer, looks fantastic. And they got 2 other projects underway, and they're doing it in stop motion. And art that supposedly they said has been lost. There's another series another one that came out on Netflix. I forgot the name of it too. Frankazina, whatever, on there about a girl who gets taken into the nightmare universe, which they told these Mexican producers, which they said no, nobody wants to see a Mexican stop motion animation, and it did very well for itself. And there are 2 others on the way.
Yeah. I think you're right, Madman, and it'll come down to the story and how much of that story is about a heroic journey and how much is the usual political messaging that we seem to get injected into these. And you're right, people are tired of it. That said, Toy Story 5 has done incredibly well, 763 million worldwide. And you know, it's still got a little bit to go, but it's done really well. Minions and Monsters, yeah, I think it's going to struggle to break even. It's got a strong first weekend globally, but it's still got a way to go. The Odyssey, I suspect it's not going to do well, but I've also got a thought that no one's got any details yet, and I've got a suspicion it might actually be one of Nolan's good films. But we'll wait and see.
I disagree with Dean. I think Minions and Monsters and Toy Story will both do pretty well. They're kids' movies. They're fun.
Toy Story's done really well.
Yeah, I agree that they're near the end of their life, but they'll still both break even. They'll do, Minions and Monsters will break even. The Odyssey, I think you mentioned it. I think it's Nolan's. He wants an Academy Award. He wants an Oscar.
Yeah.
He's basically brought in every big name star he could. He's got, I think his last film was there are DEI requirements to get an Oscar, right?
Yeah,
you got to have a certain amount of. Now his last movie, I believe, met those requirements, but they were all behind the camera, right? So that's not enough, apparently. So I think he's putting.
What was his last movie?
I'm not sure. I think he's doing it this time. He's putting them in front of the camera and guaranteeing himself. He's got the big names. He's got Matt Damon. He's got Zendaya. He's got Tom, Spider-Man. Everybody. But he's going to do. He's got a trans person in there. He's got a black woman playing Helen of Troy. He's like, that's it. I'm going all out and make sure I get my Academy Award, I guess. And I don't think he cares so much if the movie is good or not. I don't think Hollywood cares. The plan is to get him an Oscar, and I don't think it matters if it's good or not. It's going to get nominated for a ton of awards anyway.
Yeah. Oppenheimer. His last movie was Oppenheimer, and that did incredibly well. I loved the movie. It got a ton of awards.
He did a documentary about Hans Zimmer last year, but that's not really.
You got to remember, this is the same man. This is the same director that did Dunkirk and Memento.
Yeah,
and even the
two movies I really didn't
Batman Begins also.
Yeah,
and another movie called which was so underrated with Robin Williams, Insomniac.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah,
which is a very good film. If you've not seen it, wonderful performance from Robin Williams on that one.
Yeah, and of course, Inception, one of my most favorite films.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that, they said, well, the Motion Picture Association, they're throwing these rules and stuff like that. Guess what? This is Hays Code 2.0. It is totally Hays Code 2.0. It's going to get to the point, lawsuits are going to fly eventually. And the lawsuits are going to win. You know why? Because it's the same thing. The reason why the Hays Code was deposed back in the 1950s. It stifled artistic expression. It violates the Constitution. People don't realize it. You're telling people that you have to hire this particular person for a particular role. It takes away from the vision of the person who's putting this together, the vision of the writer, the vision of the director. You're telling the writer and director, says, you got to do this.
It's
or else.
And it changes the story so much. And a prime example of that is the new Severus Snape. It's going to change the dynamic of the characters. Is Harry racist now? Oh my God, he's the half-blood prince. Oh my God. How is James was a racist bully? That's how it's going to look now. And we know it was never about that.
There's not going to be any lawsuits. No one's going to win. This is this is an awards group saying, hey, if you want this award, you have to, you need to meet these requirements. They're not forcing you to have anybody in there. They're not forcing you to change.
Yes, anything. They are. Yes, well, they are. In order to be
only if you want awards.
Only if you want their
awards or anything of that nature. They are forcing.
But
this is the same. This is the same code as they were in the late 30s, straight on into the 50s. These are the same codes that they were officiating. They just changed the situations. To the point. There was a point where it said you can't have drugs, you can't have guns, you can't have a man and a woman sleep in the same bed on there. You can't have gay issues onto the situation in these movies. These were a lot of things. Why do you think the 1970s, the 1980s, the 1990s had such a renaissance in filmmaking? Some of the best films in our lives came in those eras because the shackles, the chains that were brought upon Hollywood were removed. You wouldn't have had, movies, basically made by some of the great directors of all time. Clockwork Orange, for example, Midnight Cowboy. You wouldn't have films like these in our structure that if those laws were still in place.
Camelot
Doesn't
said
it? That's not gonna. It's not gonna go. This is not. They're not saying you can't make your movie. You can make your movie however you want. They're simply saying
Are you
that
really
if you
gonna
want
finish
to,
this,
if you
Bob?
want to win my award, you have to do it this way. Just like I could start the Snob Science Fiction Awards and say only one-armed Asian lesbians could apply for
And you'd
it.
be wrong for that.
No, I could do that. It wouldn't be.
No,
illegal.
it would no. You'd be stifling creation, and that's what Madman
Yeah,
is
but
saying.
no, we're
Doesn't
talking
matter.
about whether it would be
Stop-
against
stop.
law or
These
not.
studios, the unions,
Doesn't
the
matter.
studios have
Yes,
been
it
pushed
does.
upon these.
Doesn't
They've
matter.
been pushing
You're not being
Disney, for
stopped.
example.
Okay, stop.
Disney
Snob.
for the
You're
longest.
just arguing for arguing's sake.
No,
You're
I agree
arguing
with
for
Snob.
arguing's sake.
No, he's
It's
made a
not
good
a-
point.
I'm making a great point.
No,
It's
you're
a great
not.
point, but so
Listen
You're,
and
Madman.
learn.
you're
Listen and learn for a change.
You're preaching censorship.
I'm not preaching anything.
Yes, you are.
I'm talking about reality. I'm saying that
Reality.
you can go out.
Reality.
Anybody can go out and make up any award they want and say you have to meet these requirements to be considered for my award. That's simply what the Academy Awards do. They're not the government. They're not saying you can't put this in your movie. You can't have that. You can't. You have to put this. You have to put that. There's not going to be any lawsuit. Nobody is being. You're stifled creativity if you want to have a chance winning that award. Yes, but you're not being stifled creativity. They're not going to win a lawsuit brought up for civil rights or for whatever that is. It's not going to happen.
Well, Snob,
It'll be
for
laughed at
years
for.
now, the last
Yay,
couple
Snob
of
is
years.
for the Hays Code. Yay. Pro Hays
Snob,
Code.
for
Snob.
years,
I'm sorry
the
that you can't
studios have been
understand
given
the difference
been-
between me
yeah.
explaining the situation to you versus promoting it or not. I'm sorry you can't understand that. I'm not
Yes.
promoting anything one way or the other. I'm simply laying out the reality.
Yeah, but Snob, for years now, and I've even put this out, I have to find it in my files on there. Disney and many of the studios were given paperwork of what they can put into films. Okay. This is not the MPAA. These are radical organizations that were working with the studios and says, you got to have a handicapped person in the movie. You got to have more representation on there. You got to remove the masculine role away from these movies. These are stuff that's been put to these studios. A lot of it, pushed by the unions, pushed by radical groups that basically want to take away a lot of the stuff that has been put from the 70s to the 90s. Remember, like I said, we had a renaissance. They want to take it away. Why is Obsessions a good movie? Why is Backrooms, did both these movies did so well? Because they did not they didn't bend the knee to Hollywood itself. They made the movie they wanted. And guess what? It made money.
I'm going to turn it over to
itself.
Dean to make the
Yeah.
follow up the point.
It's the Oscars aren't going to get sued, and
Well,
I
not
think
the Oscars.
that's
I'm not
the
talking
point
about
you're
the
making.
Oscars. I'm
Snob.
talking about the organization.
Yeah, I know,
itself.
but the point Snob was making is the Oscars aren't going to get sued. That even though they got this criteria, they're not going to get sued because that criteria is voluntary. If you want an award, you have to match this criteria. What you've just described, though, Madman, that's happening behind the scenes, and I can see those organizations getting sued under the relevant laws and so forth, because what they are doing is illegal. What they're insisting on is discriminatory. But anybody can create award. And Snob, I am looking forward to this one-armed lesbian, Asian lesbian awards. I'm really looking forward to that, Snob. I cannot wait for the first set of awards.
I'll probably make it a little bit more. It seems too general for me that maybe too many people can apply. I might make it more restrictive. I'll think about that.
Yeah. And Madman, you're right. The films that are making money right now, the ones who go, we don't want the awards. Screw what Hollywood are telling us to do. We're going to make the stuff we want to make. And I hate the fact that Hollywood has stifled creativity. There are some great movies that could have been really great movies that were brought down. I'm looking at Dune 2. I loved the first movie. Dune 2 just came along and it just felt handcuffed. It felt like changes were made so that it was more appealing to Hollywood, and the spirit of those books began to eke out of the film. So yeah, it's
Well, then again,
Yeah.
no one's really got the Frank Herbert novel right
It's still
in the years on there. Even
the
going back
David
to
Lynch.
even going back to the 80s, that 80s
I
movie,
know.
even though with the editing and all that, they made it a much better movie. It's still not the vision of Frank Herbert,
No.
onto there.
Well,
And
that's a separate issue. I could talk about that for.
yeah, that
Oh,
Listen,
we could all talk
I'm the
about that
last.
for-
I'm the last person to want censorship. I want to see good films being made. I don't care if they're who's in the film, what color they are, who they decide to sleep with, what's between their legs. I just want to see good stories. That's what I want. I really couldn't care less of the color of the actors, and I say that 100%. But but you're not going to. It's a voluntary thing to do, and I hate the fact that these groups are coming in, that the Academy Award is exerting influence to make what I would say would be to not say to directors, writers, etc., go and make the best movie you can and we'll give you an award for the best movie. There and it hasn't been like that for some time. They've been political for many years before this. Now this is just another extra aspect layered on top of it. And I hate that. You've seen all kinds of good movies that never got Academy Awards because they weren't politically correct or they weren't, what Hollywood liked. So I hate to see that, but I mean, that's the way, that's the way they are and that's how they operate. How are we going to get away with it? The only way to get away from it is to offer some other award that is even more prestigious, that focuses on a good story and the best films, and not who made the movie or whose turn it is to get an award or whatever, any of that stuff. I wish it was that way, but it's it's not.
No,
Politics
it's not.
politics are everywhere.
It hasn't been for years. I've always said the MPAA needs to be deposed. We need a much better line in rating code. Get rid of the PG-13. That's the first thing on there, because it's like, oh yeah, we did PG-13 just so basically one curse word can get in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you have cursing in the movie, okay, it's up to the parent if they want to let them walk into an R-rated movie, to that point. PG, parental guidance, that's what it's for. Why did we need a PG-13? Now, understand the NC-17, it was the replacement for the X rating. The X rating fell off on there, and certain issues because of that. I can understand why the NC-17 was put into place. Yeah, we should keep that. That's not a problem at all. We have G, PG, no PG-13, rated R, NC-17. That's all we need. Broadcast television. If it's an adult show, it has adult situations. We don't need to know if there's smoking. We don't need to know if there's violence in there. It's an adult show, plain and simple, adult situations. All we need to that point. We don't need these, breakdowns of, how many people are smoking in this? How many people are drinking alcohol into this point? How many people are getting into the car that's drunk? How much prostitution is going on in this? We don't need that situation. If you want to rate it properly. Don't break it down to that point.
This comes back to what we were talking about earlier with the censorship. This comes back to parental involvement and really a lack thereof. So that's kind of like bringing that train of thought back.
Okay, so I'm not against I don't really care what the rating system is. I don't think that really is matters that much. And if they want to be more detailed in the rating, saying this is PG-13, but it's got smoking and swearing and whatever. I mean, these are just information. This is just information to inform the consumer, and the consumer can take that information and use it or not use it as they see fit. That doesn't matter to me. If they want to give me more information about the movie, I think that's probably better. More is usually better than less. Now, I mean, I think the real problem is these other groups that you're talking about that are getting in there and saying, you got to do this, you got to do that. That's affecting the quality of the movie and the story. And, oh, no, you need 3 of these and 4 of those and 10 of these. And there's got to be 1 of these in there. And that changed it. That's the big deal. That's where you should focus your efforts on changing how things work, and not the ratings are kind of secondary. And I can take it or leave it, get rid of PG-13 or not. I don't really care. I don't think it's that important overall.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay, just give me a second here. Just trying to get something set up here real quick as we close out on there.
Oh, let me say that.
So, next weekend we got Evil Dead, Moana. Weekend after that, we got the Odyssey. After that, it's hit and miss because we got the Pinocchio horror film and a couple other light stuff coming up to the end of July to that point. So we got to the end of this. Dean, what do we got coming up in about 1 hour?
In about 1 hour, we have Graph Paper Architect, who is talking world building with us. So we're back to world building. We're going to be exploring how he does world building, talking about how we do world building, and discussing world building in particular. So I'm not 100% sure what we're going to be discussing, but come into the chat. You can influence, you can ask questions, you can help us explore the worlds that we create.
The link is right now in the chat.
Thank you for that.
For 1 hour. In 1
In
hour.
1 hour's time. Yeah.
1 hour's time. Outpost, what do we got on you?
I have some things coming in the mail that I will be showing off. So keep an eye out for that. I'm got some trailers I'm going to be reviewing. New trailer recently for Lanterns. The new, I think, is that a TV show or a movie? I can never remember.
TV show.
Yeah, TV show just dropped, I think, late last week. So I will be talking about that. And I am doing my new show segment, Popcorn Bucket Hole, where I take the worst reviewed movies on Rotten Tomatoes and I roast the hell out of them. So that's what I got coming up.
Okay. And then, of course, Sunday, Bad News Bars, 9 p.m. Eastern, right there. I'm not certain what they have this week going on. I haven't spoken to Jeff on that. Cam's still in the chat. Throw up what you got coming up onto there. I'll come back to it in a moment. Also, don't forget, live from the bunker. I'm not certain when he's going to be back. Sad news that they had to put Alfie to sleep. Their pet dog on there. Condolences to the situation. I know, it's an emotional situation going on over there at the bunker. So hopefully they'll be back up on and running soon enough. Also, Snob, what do we got tomorrow night?
It's the wrap-up show for the first 6 episodes. The wrap-up of the Shadow War. We're going to talk about the ending, our usual stuff, and maybe a little bit of controversy. Hey, was it a good ending to the Shadow War or not? What everyone thinks about that. And I will say that Dean is wrong about Late Kinds as well.
Fair enough. We can talk another time. I take it you don't like Denzel Washington as the Equalizer then?
No, I don't. I don't mind about that. That's a reimagining of,
Yeah,
that's.
I do like the Man of War
This is
the
Dune.
series that's out. That's really good. That's on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, it's already out. They've already gone through that. I believe they're getting a season 2 on that. And in 1 week on the Babylon 5 retrospective, of course, we start the Earth War. The battle on there, Epiphanies on episode 7. So that'll be starting in 1 week from tomorrow. So do check that out. Be sure to get into the chat with us. We've been getting a lot of new people coming to visit along, including today and today's show. What I got coming up, of course, we're in the summer edition of Man with a Show. We always have a little bit of specials here and there. This week we have 2 specials that are going on. We're going to be reviewing the Criterion Collection, Arsenic and Old Lace with Cary Grant. Great movie. Tell you about how good of a quality. In fact, I got it right here. Still right here on there. On there. Such a great film. If you haven't seen this, a horror comedy with Cary Grant. Great cast on there based on a stage play on there and novel. And also we'll be talking about a movie that is often called a Hammer film, but it's not. It's an American International's picture, Cry of the Banshee with Vincent Price. A great film. It was just re-released, a remastered edition. It looks fantastic. Someone let me borrow it. It looks great. Both the theatrical and the uncut version is available on there. It's starting to get harder to get right now. So if you're interested in getting it, grab it now on physical media. It is a great film. If you like Witchfinder General, if you like that role that he did, some of the cast members from that movie are in Cry of the Banshee as well. It's a great film. It's really good on there. Next week, we will be touching base on Tuesday. The PlayStation situation that's going on right now, the removal of 500 titles by Studio Canal, the removal of physical media from gaming from them, a lot of the issues that PlayStation is going on that Sony is doing right now, which is pissing the hell off of everybody right now. That we're hearing cancellations of PlayStation accounts now that's going on. So then some of them switching back to physical media. So that's next week, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. You never know what's going to happen on Madman Cafe to that point. Once again, be sure to check out our, there we go, shopcuticast.com. Gear up, stand out, join the movement. Our t-shirts on there. We have them extra 10% off. Stay Mad is the promo code. That's still going on straight through the summer. We did have a special on the 4th of July. That ended yesterday. But you never know. Well, we might sneak another special on there to that point. So we've come to the end of the show. To the point, obviously, stay curious, stay informed, and stay mad. We will see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye now.
Later.
Good night.
Thanks for coming by. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe we might let Madman out for the next live stream.